Well, it was shaping up to be a gorgeous night here in Knoxville for soccer between Tennessee and Florida, but then as you see on the radar, the Storms headed right to campus. The teams had to be taken off the field. Also, the fans had to leave the stands. There you see the heavy weather that rolled in. First, it was a lot of rain, but then we also saw our fair share of lightning as well, but now the teams are finally back on the field, ready to go for a big matchup tonight as Tennessee and Florida meet here in SEC soccer, two very talented teams. Hello again, everybody. This is Roger Hoover alongside former Tennessee soccer player Tori Beeler-Watson as we welcome you to our coverage here on the SEC Network. And Tori, a lot of time for these teams in the locker room. How does it affect their mindset going into this match?
Anytime you have a delay, it really allows the opportunity to disrupt a team's mental preparation and focus. So both teams are going to have to step out onto the pitch and be ready to go right from the start. Well,
wet weather will not dampen the enthusiasm for a great matchup tonight. Tennessee's strong defense against Florida's high-powered offense led by Savannah Jordan.
Savannah Jordan leads the conference in goals scored right now and is ranked second in the country with 13. Roger, she's the kind of player that Tennessee cannot afford to lose track of in tonight's match. She's going to cause a lot of fits for Tennessee. Should be an exciting game.
Should be, and fortunately for Tennessee, they have one of the best goalkeepers in the nation, Julie Eckel.
Julie Eckel has been tremendous for Tennessee between the pipes this year. She has 9 shutouts in 12 games, only allowing 5 goals. She's tremendous for Tennessee. Her leadership and her poise is going to be key for tonight.
Well, it is wet here in Knoxville, and in many ways tonight, this is going to be like a title bout as you have Eckel of Tennessee going up against Jordan of Florida, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how these players interact.
Yeah, you know, you've got to talk about this is just an inter-school rivalry between the two. Anytime you've got Tennessee and Florida, it's always a big match, especially for the conference.
So the teams have cleared the field. We'll take a look at the starting lineup. First for the 12th-ranked Florida Gators of head coach Becky Burley. Jordan Sharp up front, but some very talented midfielders as well, really led by Smith right in the middle for the Florida Gators as they'll open up in a 3-5-2. Then you look at Tennessee's starting lineup. Brian Pinsky will have the Volunteers in a 4-3-3. The outstanding forwards up front, McClung, Neal, and Kupritz. But also, Tennessee's back line will be really challenged tonight. A lot of pressure on Ferguson, Susan Ferguson, and Emily Morrow to make sure they stay right with Florida's forwards.
It's going to be a great matchup between these two tonight, especially as Tennessee takes on the number 12 ranked Florida Gators.
So again, rain continuing to fall, but the good thing is lightning has gone away, so now it's just going to be a different type match. It's going to be very slippery. This pitch really does drain well here in Knoxville, but just the conditions are really changed from what we were going to have.
Well, and Roger, we have to talk about the fact that both of these teams went out and you know, they began their warm-ups, and now here we are almost an hour and a half later, and we're just now getting started. But I got to be honest with you, as a former player, it's better that these teams had that delay before the match started than for them to have taken the pitch and had gotten in the stream of play and had that rhythm broken.
Well, a lot of extra time in the locker room for Brian Pinsky, Becky Burley to talk to their teams. Does it change the game plan very much for the coaches going into this match?
I don't think so. I mean, I think as a coach, it's your responsibility to make sure your team stays loose and that they don't overthink what they're about to step into. You know, for Tennessee, there's a big opportunity for them. If they can, you know, take a big win against Florida and continue to advance themselves up in the SEC rankings, it's going to be huge. And for Florida right now, they sit 7th behind Tennessee, who's 6th. So it's important for them to continue on through the season as well.
There's Florida head coach Becky Burley. She has created such a great program in Gainesville, and her talented team coming in 12th ranked this year, but her 21st season led the Gators to the national championship in 1998.
She's a tremendous coach that has the ability to recruit in some top-notch athletes. You know, you have to think about Danielle Futopoulos, Wambach, Heather Mitz, and now she's got Jordan, Faulkner, you know, Westfall. It's going to be a great matchup tonight, and she always has a talented team.
Becky Burley and the Gators going up against the Volunteers tonight, as they'll be wearing the checkerboard jerseys going up against Florida's blue. But Ariel Kupritz, player to keep an eye on, and Julie Eckel. Katie Cousins, #1 recruit in the nation this year, really leads an outstanding freshman class for the Volunteers.
Yeah, you know, Coach Pinsky and his staff have done a tremendous job in recruiting talented players to their team as well. They're ranked 4th in the country for recruits with this freshman class, and it starts right there with Katie Cousins in the middle. She's just a solid player, has a lot of composure through the middle of the field, and that's something you're going to see on display tonight.
So Tennessee against Florida, and this has been an outstanding series to watch. The Gators have not had a lot of success playing in Knoxville. They did win the last time that the Gators and Vols met here at Regal Soccer Stadium in 2013, but beyond that, you have to go back to the late 90s, the last time Florida won here in Knoxville.
You know, it's always a grudge match between these two teams. And, you know, you mentioned last year Tennessee went down to the Florida Swamp and fell to them in regular season play 3-1. Tennessee was able to edge them out in the SEC tournament to advance to the semifinals. So there's a lot at stake tonight for these two teams, and just the battle of it. I mean, anytime you have Tennessee and Florida, I don't care what sport it is, it's always a big game.
So we're about set to go for kickoff here in Knoxville. Again, the rain is going to continue pretty much throughout the match. It is going to be a slippery surface for the Vols and Gators to deal with, but if you're a player, you just have to embrace it.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to keep in mind that the ball is going to be slick and it's going to skip around. And so it's the team that is in position for those second and third balls and the bounces is going to be the one that benefits most.
And we have started this match again, NCAA soccer, 2 45-minute halves. Clock does count down instead of counting up. And a battle right now at the midfield. First minute of this match, chance for these teams to kind of figure out where everyone is going to be positioned again. We mentioned it in the starting lineups, Tennessee and Florida opening up in different sets.
Yeah, and Florida is one of those teams that's known to really try to possess the ball a lot. They keep a lot of metrics on the sideline as to how many passes they can get and string together consistently. So, you know, Tennessee's MO, especially in these first 15, 20 minutes, is going to be to try to disrupt that rhythm, not allow Florida to get in any kind of rhythm whatsoever at all.
Long kick by Mora, right to Marquise, the keeper for the Florida Gators. She's only a freshman from St. Petersburg, Florida, Kaylin Marquise, and someone to keep an eye on tonight.
Marquise has done a really good job. She's stepped up the last couple of games for Florida. And before that, you know, you had Ty Singer in there.
Tennessee with Cooperage trying to make something happen. Over to the right side and just out of the reach of Amy Neal, who scored Tennessee's lone goal in their match last Friday on another cold night. That was against Georgia. Tennessee did win 1-0. Amy Neal, junior out of Los Alamos, New Mexico. So far this year, 4 goals for the Volunteers.
She's a tremendous player for Tennessee up top. She has a great work ethic and just a never say die mentality. She'll chase down every single ball, and she's not afraid to tangle up, especially with the goalkeepers.
Back to midfield, and Tennessee has been on the attacking side of the field pretty much all throughout the early minutes. 2 minutes in now. And this will go against Tennessee.
And we mentioned that Florida is one of those teams that likes to get the ball started quickly. They're going to be quick on restarts. Anytime the ball goes out of bounds, they're going to try to get it back in play and really capitalize on those quick counterattacks against their opposition. And in this case, it's Tennessee. Knocked
out of play by Gabby Santorio. Tennessee 6-1-5, 2-1-2 in the SEC. And mentioning the overall record for Tennessee, kind of one number stands out larger than the rest. 6 wins, 1 loss, but 5 draws. You rarely see that in soccer.
Well, you have to talk about, you know, the fact that Tennessee has a lot of young players and where their veteran players are across that back line. And I think that's why you see Tennessee being really stingy in the goals. They don't really give up any goals. And part of that is because you've got Julie Eckel back there, that leadership just to keep everybody tight on that back line.
Julie Eckel has not had to work much yet for the Volunteers. And she also didn't have to work much in the last match going up against Georgia. Tennessee's back line really kept a lot of shots away from her in the box. Tennessee back on Florida's end. Amy Neal. And just offsides.
That's a great attempt by Tennessee. They're trying to get that quick counterattack. Unfortunately, Amy Neal just caught offsides.
Looking at what the Volunteers have done to this point, I mentioned the 6 wins for Tennessee, but really a quality draw they had earlier this season against top 10 Virginia Tech.
You know, Tennessee's still working to put together complete sets of games, and a lot of people have questioned their ability to finish in the attacking third.
Saw the stat as well. 9 shutouts for the Volunteers so far this year out of the 12 matches. Very impressive. Westfall trying to make something happen with Smith. Center it up. Here's the first action for Eckel today, but she makes the save.
And Florida, as we mentioned, is lining up in a 3-5-2 formation, and they're really going to ask a lot of their defenders to get forward and press numbers into attack. Florida's going to try to apply a lot of pressure against Tennessee's back line and hope to cause a lot of confusion as their forwards make those dynamic runs.
All the way to Florida's back line. Some experience there at defender for the Gators. Here comes Susan Ferguson running hard for Tennessee. Trying to get something set up.
And Susan Ferguson is a defender for Tennessee, so Tennessee too likes to push those forwards up. It's going to be important for both teams as they play those players forward that they make those recovery runs defensively as well.
And Klung was double teamed for Tennessee, finally kicks it out of play. Now we'll see a corner kick coming up for the Volunteers.
Coach Penske had mentioned in our conference call that set pieces are really important, especially against Florida. Florida's given up more goals this season than they have in years past, and a lot of it are on moments like this.
Headed back. Now Tennessee will try to set up another play, centering it, but there are the Gators. Katie Cousins nearly knocked it away for Tennessee. Outstanding freshman, ranked #1 in the country in this last recruiting class.
Tennessee's doing an extremely good job of pressuring the ball. You can see you've got Anna McClung pressuring, and then right behind her is Riley O'Keefe. So they've got the high pressure person and the second person to apply. So they're almost double teaming, really trying to create opportunities for them offensively from their defensive pressure.
Gators trying to move more into the midfield. Maggie Dougherty Howard named as one of the top leaders of the team, just kicked it back there. First 6 minutes of the match, no score between Tennessee and Florida. Susan Ferguson, strong defense, right on Florida's Betsy Middleton, who is a transfer to Gainesville from the University of Miami. They're the strong moves of Katie Cousins, and it doesn't matter how many defenders are on Cousins, she can really just keep possessing the soccer ball.
Katie Cousins is a tremendous player in the middle, and you know, we talk about her being the #1 recruit, and part of that reason is just her ability to keep her composure. You know, she can have 2-3 people pressuring her on her, and she's not going to turn over the ball, and she's precise in her passing.
And knocked out of play by Florida's Kristen Cardano, redshirt sophomore from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Throw-in coming up from Tennessee from Emily Morrow. Just over the head of Slattery of the Gators, all the way back to Faulkner. Faulkner fun to watch on Florida's back line.
Faulkner's another player you have to highlight from Florida. She plays on the U23 national team. She's an extremely talented player that Florida's going to look to attack out of the back. She brings a lot of speed, and she can generate a lot of opportunities up top, especially to that player right there, Jordan. She's amazing, Savannah Jordan.
That's just back of Faulkner. And back to Marquise, the Florida keeper. Now quickly back past Neal, and then Marquise once again. Opportunity there for Tennessee.
And Tennessee's pressuring high. That was one of their objectives, is try to pressure high, especially given this weather. We talked about how the ball is going to skip around, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for teams to win those second and third balls. And if Tennessee can position themselves in Florida's defensive third, they can generate some opportunities for them offensively.
Back to midfield, then on the Tennessee half again. The back line there for the Volunteers. Again, Florida not really making many opportunities just yet, and really just one shot for the Gators to this point, one shot for the Vols.
Both teams like to try to build out of the back, but Roger, tonight teams can't afford to make any mistakes or play around with the balls in the back. They're going to have really quick decisions and play those balls forward. Riley
O'Keefe gaining some separation, but there's Kristen Westfall helping to chase it down for the Gators off the foot of Neal. Back to Westfall. And Westfall may fly under the radar a little bit considering all the press that Savannah Jordan gets, but she's a lot of fun to watch as well.
Westphal is extremely creative, especially coming out of the back, and that's one of the things that makes her so dangerous, is that anytime you can send a player out of the back, a defender, oftentimes their forwards aren't going to track them. So Westphal has been able to post some numbers this season that she might not have had in years past, and it's just because she's getting more involved into the attack.
Throw in for the Gators. Back to Slattery. So Florida trying to set something up on Tennessee's end for the first time. One save already by Julie Eckel, but so far Savannah Jordan has not been that involved in this match.
Again, Florida's bringing up another defender, taking a shot. At times when Florida's pressing high, there's times, Roger, where they're only leaving 2 defenders back, which if Tennessee was able to get the ball and quickly counterattack, that could really expose them. Florida doing a good job of possessing the balls through the middle of the field and just being patient in their build-up.
Just past Neal to Florida's back line through the first 10 minutes. Still no score between Tennessee and Florida. Now the Gators will try and take it back the other way.
Middleton was just looking for Savannah Jordan to check back on that. Savannah Jordan is a tremendous player, and she's really good, Roger, at playing with her back to pressure. There's a lot of similarities in the way that she plays in Abby Wambach. She's a strong physical player up top. She's extremely creative, and she has the ability to really pick apart defenses. So I think Florida will look to try to play the ball into her feet. She's really good at dribbling at people and taking them on.
And here comes Jordan. Good speed, long pass coming over to Tricoli. Tricoli with a shot and just saved away by Julie Eckel. That was very close to the first goal of the match.
And you got Savannah Jordan just taking a good look across the goal to see Tricoli coming in on the back post. Eckel there on the other end to make a big save for Tennessee.
Eckel got far out of the box too.
And Tricoli is one of the freshmen for Florida that's really stepped in and had an impact. You know, Florida has the most freshmen on this team that they've had in years past.
Well, slight delay as we get ready for a corner kick, as Tennessee has one player slow to get up right back at midfield. And it looks like Ariel Kupritz has battled some knee injuries before in her career. Joe Middick, athletic trainer for Tennessee, meeting with her. 33:55 left to go in this first half. No score between the Volunteers and the Gators. Kupritz, a local product from Maryville, actually transferred into Tennessee from the University of Miami in Florida. Back on her feet. She has compartment syndrome in her knees. We mentioned her legs will go numb from time to time, so hate to see that happen here in the first half.
You know, Roger, you never know that, though, by watching her play. She's tremendous, and Coach Penske talks about, you know, getting numbers into the attack and just flying up the sidelines, and she's one of those players that goes 100 miles an hour.
Florida corner kick. Tennessee got a head on it first, and now a shot goes high over the post as that shot just went over, and we'll see Tennessee and Florida go back the other way.
And Florida can be extremely dangerous in these scenarios. You know, you've got Jordan Faulkner, who's very strong in the air. That's how she scored against Kentucky, was on a corner kick. So she's a player that you definitely have to watch inside the box, as well as some of the other players.
Kick coming up from Julie Eckel, redshirt senior from Cordova, Tennessee. Now back to Tennessee's back line. Anna McClung. And back to midfield.
And there's Riley O'Keefe. She's another freshman for Tennessee. She got a start for them when Christie went down with a knee injury, and she's really been instrumental in Tennessee's offense. And something you don't see a lot from freshman players is a consistency, and she plays a level of consistency that you would often think of as a veteran.
Katie Cousins back to Emily Morrow, loses her footing. Is there a foul there? Yes. Oh, it's right on Westphal. Now Tennessee will have a kick.
and set pieces are key for Tennessee. They understand that they may not have a lot of opportunities in front of their goal, so when those opportunity comes, they have to try to capitalize the best ways that they can.
Gabby Santorio kicking for Tennessee. Right into the box, but also right to the Florida defense. See if the Gators can take it back the other way. Sharp back to their back line. Across midfield. And some talented moves there by Jordan.
And you can see why Savannah Jordan is just such a crafty player. She's creative and she's heads up smart. She feels her defender, knows which side the pressure is coming on, and just able to slide the ball right in between the Tennessee defender's legs. Very, very creative player. Exciting to watch. Good
pass to the center by Jordan. So they're getting ready to set up a play. The Gators 8-3-1 on the season, 2-2-1 in SEC play. And even though Florida ranked 12th in the nation, they've still been disappointed with some of their results in SEC contests.
Well, Coach Becky Burley talked about how important it is for them to try to put together a total 90 minutes.
Here's Jordan right in the box. Will she have a kick on Eckel? No, taken away by Tennessee. And now just past the Florida Gators. And McClung, strong defense for Tennessee. Now the Gators getting set for a throw-in with Betsy Middleton.
You can see the battle in the center of the field between Amy Neal and Smith for Florida, and that's what it's going to be all night tonight. These 1v1 battles, especially through the middle. Which team is going to possess it most and find their teammates' feet?
Now the Gators back at midfield. Probably the best win that Florida had was earlier this season against a very talented Florida State team.
Well, Coach Burley had mentioned, you know, she's got several freshmen on her field, and so half the field has never been here before. We're at the halfway point of the SEC match, and a lot of them have never experienced this before. So Florida's still working to put together a complete 90 minutes of soccer, and for them, it's about maximizing the potential of this team. So every game that they step into, they're working to put together elements to make a complete package, and hopefully by postseason play, they're ready to go.
A lot of postseason success for the Gators in recent years. Even last year, disappointing for Florida to lose to Tennessee in the SEC tournament in the round of 8 in Orange Beach, Alabama. But the Gators really bounced back from that very well. Had a long run in the NCAA tournament, lost in the Elite 8 to Stanford.
Florida always has strong teams, and it's very rare that they don't perform well in the conference. And you know, I think it's just a testament to Becky Burley and her coaching staff that they turn around and they pull in the number 8 recruiting class in the country. They have a lot of talent, and they know how to develop players.
Trying to center it to Jordan. Tennessee kicked it just away back to Cousins, and now Cousins will clear it out back across midfield. Faulkner will have to chase it down for the Gators. That's key for Tennessee. Any moment like that where you can sense the ball's getting to Jordan, find a way to stop her.
Well, you know, Florida is terrific at possessing the ball, and they do. They put a lot on that, trying to connect passes and how many passes can we get and we keep. And anytime Tennessee can disrupt that and give their defense some relief, and even if it's from a clearance from Katie Cousins, you know, she played the ball up and out, but she played it to Amy Neal.
Sarah Tricoli was trying to gain some separation. Now she'll get set for a throw-in. 28.5 minutes left to go before half. Still no score between the Gators and the Vols. So that's knocked out of play again.
And the rain is really coming right now down on the field, and that's tough as a player. I mean, you're in it. Not only is the ball slip and the surface slippery, but it's also tough to see at times. You know, you're trying to fight those raindrops from coming out within your eyes. But
corner kick coming up for Florida. The Gators have outshot Tennessee 6-1 to this point in the match. Already 3 saves by Julie Eckel. Kristen Westphal getting ready for the corner. Player to watch in the box is going to be Savannah Jordan. McClung there first for Tennessee, then Colhane with the long kick, but the Gators still there. Westphal trying to center it up and just past the heads of everyone, whether in Tennessee orange or Florida blue.
Westfall has tremendous service on corner kicks. And you can see just as she was trying to play that ball in a second time, her precision on that was phenomenal. Tennessee's going to have to make sure that they have an eye on where Sharp is and also Jordan on these corner kicks.
Back to center on the corner kick once again. Now there you see Westfall this time playing in the center. Aggressive defense for Tennessee. Westfall keeps the ball. So it was Ferguson that tried to come in on that tackle. Now Tennessee getting knocked down, but still getting it to the Gator back line. Setting something up in the penalty box. Now back to the Gators' last line of defense with Cardano.
And as the ball went into Jordan's feet, you saw 3 Tennessee players stepping to her, applying pressure, trying to deny any opportunity for her to turn onto goal.
Slattering knockdown. Ferguson strong defense for Tennessee along with Amy Neal. That gets just past her. Now the Gators will set up something else.
And Susan Ferguson's got to stay on her feet. She's a physical player, but if she gets in any type of altercation with Jordan inside the box, Jordan is a smart player. She's going to feel that pressure, and she's going to take the fall. She's done it a few times this season, and that's just heads-up play by Jordan.
Great play a moment ago by Katie Cousins to dispossess the Gators, but Florida now gets it back. Coley. Back to Smith. Maggie Dougherty-Howard.
And for Tennessee right now, Florida continues to press and get forward. They're playing with 2 defenders in the back, which tells us that they are continuing to send those forward or their defenders up, making the numbers in the center of the field lopsided. It's tough to defend when you don't know who your mark is.
Tricoli came close there, but Tennessee is able to keep possession. And back past Faulkner.
And ideally, Tennessee would want to be pressuring that ball. You would want Amy Neal pressing hard on that. And as a team, Tennessee has to step up defensively. They have to move as a unit. They just can't play the ball forward and then sit back on their heels. They've got to close that gap between their back line and the front line. Right now, there's a lot of space in between there, and it shows because Florida's been able to maintain possession in those zones.
Some action now around the midfield. Well, the first 5-10 minutes or so, really Tennessee on the attacking end, but Florida has really changed the tempo of the match since then, being more on the Tennessee end.
Well, when we look at stats and you look at these 2 teams on paper, Roger, Florida is ranked number 8th in the country for offense. On the flip side of that, you've got Tennessee that's ranked number 8th in the country on defense and number 4 in shutouts. So it's really a team offense versus defense.
Megan Flynn just came in for Tennessee. Going right to work, a good kick to the center. Amy Neal now gets this going just to the keeper, Marquise, as she'll pick up her first save of the night.
And you can see as the Florida players comes out to tackle that ball, just slides, keep on sliding. And that's just, you know, to show that the field is wet. It's definitely the players are losing their footing a little bit, so it's going to be important that they try to play the ball quickly and out from underneath them. Again, a very physical battle in the center of the fields, and we're going to have these 1v1 matchups all night long, and it's just a matter of playing through that. And as the field becomes more wet, and as it just really raises the level, the intensity of play, balls are going to skip, so you're going to grab a player's jersey to try to stay up and with them.
Long kick by Eckel, back across midfield. Can Tennessee take advantage? This goes long. Megan Flynn, an opportunity here. Shot on and in! Tennessee takes a 1-0 lead over Florida. Megan Flynn with her first goal as a volunteer. And now the Volunteers with a 1-0 advantage about halfway through the first half.
Just a wonderful look right here from Tennessee to slide the ball through, recognizing that Florida only has 2 players back. Just a tremendous shot from Tennessee, and that's all it takes. Tennessee's up 1-0.
And a lot of times this season, 1 goal for Tennessee has been enough to get a win.
Yeah, and we mentioned, you know, Florida presses high. They like to get those defenders forward, but where they've given up goals this season is not recovering in their defensive half. So Florida was pressing up. They've got 2 players back defensively, and Tennessee's hedging their bats 1v1s, trying to play those balls through.
Good assist by Mackenzie Gooner for Tennessee, as that is her first assist of the season. And again, the first goal for the redshirt freshman Megan Flynn, a native of Arlington, Virginia. She's played in every match now for Tennessee. Hasn't had a start, but who knows, may earn a start after getting a goal tonight.
Well, and you can expect that Florida's going to continue to press hard.
Again, 9 shutouts for Tennessee this year out of the 12 matches that the Volunteers have played. Defense has not been the question for Tennessee. It's been the offense.
Well, and we just saw moments ago, Savannah Jordan, she's an extremely smart player, and you better bet right now they're down 1 goal. Any type of physical play that she's going to get, she has tremendous awareness of where she is. So if she gets any type of push or edge or shove, she is going to sell it inside the box and do what she can to get herself a goal. And you can see a little bit of exchange right there between Tennessee and Florida.
Well, of course, only 5 goals given up by Tennessee this year. Goals have been hard to come by no matter the match. But so far this year, Tennessee has only allowed 2 goals in the first half. So Julie Eckel to start matches has been very strong for the Volunteers.
You know, Tennessee's done a good job of getting the lead on their opponents, but where they've been vulnerable is in the second half, maintaining that. And I think that a lot of that's attributed to the fact that they just have a young team, and it's a mentality, being able to close out a game. Unfortunately for them, they do have Julie Eckel in the goal, and she's able to make up some big saves that helps lift Tennessee when they're experiencing those lulls.
So a few minutes after the first goal of the match, Tennessee now trying to attack again. So let's go all the way back to the Florida back line and their keeper, Marquise. Back to midfield. 21 and a half minutes to go before halftime. Tennessee leading by a goal. Now whistle blown.
And that's an offside call for Tennessee. Tennessee just trying to be dynamic on their front line. And we're going to take a look right here. You've got Jordan and Colhane. She's just kind of trying to tell her, you need to stay back, get off of me. And you get that frustration. You get a player like Jordan up top, and she's not experiencing the success that she wants to, and she's extremely talented. You're going to get a little bit of exchange, and that's part of her game, too, is intimidation.
Intimidation, we touched on before. She's very similar to, of course, Abby Wambach, and that was part of Abby's game as well.
Yeah, and when you look at their stats, they're neck and neck. They're both in the 50 club by sophomores, and here we are into their junior season, and the similarities between the way that they play is tremendous. I have no doubt that Savannah Jordan will continue to move forward in her career and be one of the nation's top players, not just in college play, but beyond that as well.
And Tori, you got to play against Abby Wambach. You know what it's like to go up head-to-head against her.
Yeah, she was a tremendous athlete, and for me, that was probably the highlight of my career, being able to play against a caliber of athlete like that. Just what she's done for the women's game and how she's raised the level of play of all those around her is phenomenal, and that's what a program like Florida does. You've got Becky Burley, who's able to recruit talent like Savannah Jordan, like Abby Wambach, like Danielle Futopoulos, Andy Sellers. The list goes on of tremendous players that have come out of that program.
Well, we may have more about your meeting with Abby Wambach here in Knoxville coming up at halftime.
I'm excited to watch it.
We'll look back to the archives. And again, you touched on before, these teams have had such a good rivalry. Of course, a lot of that comes from the football rivalry that was developed in the 90s, but it's spread to every sport between Tennessee and Florida.
I think that's what makes it exciting to watch and play. Anytime you've got a rivalry, it just brings that much more excitement. Tennessee tonight, the fans, they've waited out this rain. The stands are still packed tonight to watch Tennessee play Florida, and that's what Tennessee-Florida rivalry does in every sport. It doesn't matter if it's soccer or football or basketball, and it's just tremendous to see that kind of community support.
Free kick coming up here for Tennessee as Susan Ferguson gets ready. 19 minutes to go before halftime, a 1-0 lead. The goal scored just a few minutes ago by Megan Flynn, first of her Tennessee career, after she had 3 shots on goal coming into this match. Long kick by Ferguson. The keeper, Marquise, left the box. Can Tennessee head something in? No, looks like the Gators will be able to regain some control, but that was dangerous to see Marquise that far outside the box. Now here comes another opportunity for Tennessee. Katie Cousins lost it for just a moment. Now back with the Gators.
We saw Katie Cousins lose her footing. And that's just where players are going to have to be on their toes to make sure that they're in the right positions, making sure that they're timing the ball properly to get their body in play. And another physical play. And I expect Tennessee to kind of take their time right now. I mean, especially this close into the goal. The ball's just outside the 18-yard box on the other side. Great opportunity for Tennessee to really focus and try to capitalize on this opportunity.
Here comes Flynn with a kick. Marquise getting set. Tried to go first to O'Keefe. Now Cousins chasing it down for Tennessee. Everyone started backing up towards midfield. Now Tennessee trying to go on the attack. And offside.
And Tennessee's going to continue to try to exploit the sidelines and really try to expose Florida on the backside. Coach Penske talked about it in his pregame warm-up, making sure that you've got 4 people crashing on the post. And my favorite quote that he gave us, Roger, was, "There's no such thing as an ugly goal." And there's some truth to that. It doesn't matter. People don't remember how the goal was scored. They just remember what the final score was at the end. And for Tennessee, with 5 ties on the season, you got to live by that. It doesn't matter how pretty it is or how ugly it is. It just matters if it ends in the back of the net.
Goals certainly lead to wins. Tennessee looking for its 7th win tonight. Now the Gators trying to set something up. Tennessee this year outscoring opponents 8-2 in the first half. And that early momentum really has to help the defense.
It is, but we talked about Roger being able to maintain that lead.
That went just past Jordan and right to Tennessee's keeper, Julie Eck. Take another look as Jordan had an early chance.
And a firm ball played in, just skips past the Tennessee defender. Jordan hoping to get her foot on it, just missed it over the top. Eckel scoops it up.
Could the wet field have had a factor there?
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to skip and it's going to roll, and you might think that it's going to go one way and it's going to take a bounce and slide 2 feet to the left of you or 2 feet to the right.
Here's Ferguson for Tennessee. She did score a goal earlier. She now shoots on goal, but the save by Marquise.
And you're going to see a lot of shots that may stay a little bit lower and players fall to the ground because as they're trying to plant that plant foot or your non-kicking foot, they're going to slide. They're going to lose their traction. So you're going to see a lot of players fall to the ground, which sometimes may give way to the ball rising up high.
On a play there you see Megan Flynn, who just scored earlier about 10 minutes ago for Tennessee to make it a 1-0 volunteer lead.
And Tennessee is going to continue to bring numbers against Florida. Numbers off the bench, we should say. They like to substitute quite a bit. It's not uncommon for Tennessee to play 20, 21 players in a game. And, you know, the team's really bought into that philosophy. They get it done by committee. And it keeps them fresh, especially when they have a game against, you know, Alabama on Sunday.
Tennessee will be at Alabama. The Gators also have a lot of travel coming up as they'll be at home coming up against LSU, Gainesville on Sunday. And of course, the different schedule we've seen this year in the SEC, both of these teams had a lot of time to prepare for this match. Only one match last Friday. And the Gators get it to Jordan. Tennessee's defense will take it away. What are your thoughts on the schedule this year, though?
You know, I think it definitely is helpful to the players as far as recovery times. You know, anytime you play a back-to-back match Friday, Sunday, and you factor in travel and school and everything else, it is tough for players to recover, especially as you get further on into the season. You know, but at the same time, you know, everybody's doing it, so is there really an edge? I think it's more for the players' recovery. And coming into tonight's matchup, both teams only played one game last week, so it really allowed them to take time to prepare for this matchup. And, you know, we talked to Coach Penske. I said, hey, Coach, do any of these girls understand the magnitude of this game? I mean, who they're playing against? They're playing against Florida. And he said, well, you know, typically we don't start talking about our opponent till a little bit later in the week, and this time we started talking about them on Monday. And I think that's a testament to Florida's program. They're ranked number 12 in the country, and they've been ranked higher than that earlier in the season, and they've really upset. They upset the number 1 team at one point, Florida State. So I think that's just out of respect for who they are.
O'Keefe, very strong pass there, and that's hit just out of play. An impressive shot on goal, however, from Tennessee's Megan Massey. Massey just checking in a moment ago, the freshman.
And O'Keefe just sliding a ball through between the two Florida defenders. Unfortunately, Massey not able to get her leg across her body like she would have liked to. Ball going just to the outside of the goal.
8th match that Massey has played in this season for Tennessee. That was her 8th shot. Keith's the keeper for the Gators, as they have had a couple of changes at keeper this season. Marquise kind of took the starting role in a match against Jacksonville earlier this season. Some changes for the Gators. They've also had Valerie Tysinger in between the pipes. Marquise just off the line, but a good kick back to midfield.
And you can see the pressure that Tennessee is just applying to Florida's backfield and their midfielders as well, trying to create opportunities for themselves out of defensive pressure.
And a foul called there as Brooke Sharp got tangled up with Tennessee's Carlin Baldwin.
And you can see Brooke Sharp, there's 2 double teams right there. Carlin Baldwin, I think O'Keefe might have kind of clipped her heels and she was already on her way down. Baldwin getting booked with a foul, though.
Once again, Florida trying to find Savannah Jordan, trying to get her more involved in this match.
And this is when she's dangerous. The most dangerous, I would have to say, because we haven't seen a lot of action from her in the last couple of minutes, so you kind of almost forget that she's out there.
There she is now. A pass nearly taken away. Michelle Smith to the edge of the box, some good separation. And they try to head it to Jordan, just past her. Tennessee trying to clear it away, but a shot in for the Florida Gators. This match is tied at 1.
And that was great follow-up by Brooke Sharp. Tremendous effort by Florida right there, bringing the ball in.
That was the 8th goal of the season for Brooke Sharp as we take another look.
Tremendous footwork right there, just a stutter step Tennessee. Jordan with the header that missed, and then you've got the follow-up by Florida right there. Tremendous effort. Eckel not sure what to do. You got 3 Florida players crashing the back post. Tremendous redirection from Florida for the finish.
Again, the 8th goal of the season for Sharp as Tennessee tries to go on the attack right after Florida even this match, as that goes just out of play. And Tori, interesting to note that Savannah Jordan and also Brooke Sharp, they lead the nation in terms of a combo, 21 goals combined, most in NCAA Division I soccer.
They're both heads-up soccer players. They have tremendous technical ability and tactical awareness. They're very comfortable in knowing where the other one's going to be, and they do a really good job of playing balls to one another and for one another, and that's key for this Florida team. Is one of the big things that they talked about is learning how to play for one another.
So they had 20 coming into the match now, 21 with that goal by Sharp. Coming in just a few goals behind LSU's very talented tandem of Summer Clark and Jorian Balcom, and it'll be those combos going up against each other this Sunday in Gainesville when Florida will host LSU. How important was it for Florida to answer before halftime?
I think it's extremely important. You know, the more minutes that go past in between goal scoring, the less confidence you have, and the tougher it gets. You know, you just, especially if Tennessee gets another one, then that's 2 that Florida has to come back. But we've seen him do it. We've seen him rally back, especially against A&M. This is a team that's resilient.
Jordan lost her footing there, and that'll go back the other way. Or no, we didn't see the foul called. Match continued. I'm sure Jordan didn't like that.
And Florida's doing a tremendous job right now of just maintaining possession. I think if I had to give an award to a team right now to who's touched the ball more, it would definitely be in Florida's favor. They've maintained possession, and they're looking to exploit Tennessee's defense.
Eckel comes off the line, and a good job just hanging on to that ball because the Gators are ready if she made one bad move.
And Roger, Tennessee can't afford to allow Faulkner to have services like that. That's extremely dangerous, especially when you have a talented player like Jordan. Jordan can make a move on you. She can turn, she can step. She is tremendous at positioning her body just so in between the defenders. And in soccer, 2-3 inches makes all the difference in whether or not you're able to get that shot off.
Here comes Faulkner, long pass over midfield. And Tennessee trying to chase that away from Gabby Rivera. Emily Morrow all in the back line right now. This is exactly where Florida wants it, as that goes just out of play.
And Tennessee's going to have to apply more pressure on the top. Faulkner playing that ball through is going to be extremely dangerous. Tennessee's going to have to close those gaps in between the defenders.
Shot by Dougherty. Howard just goes over the goal. Aggressive shot there by Maggie Dougherty Howard, the junior from Largo, Florida.
Smart play, looks up, sees a lot of green space in front of her, wide open net. Why not? Why not take that shot?
She has scored 1 goal this season for the Gators, 4 points for the junior. That has been, again, said by Coach Briller to be one of the really key leaders on this team.
Right, and that's a heads-up look. I mean, worst case scenario, you put it on frame, you've got the talent up top that Florida brings in Sharp and Jordan, and you have them crashing. I mean, worst case scenario, you get a rebound goal.
A lot of pressure on Tennessee's Marcano. Some fine play. Here's O'Keefe near the corner. And just out of play again. 7.5 minutes to go before halftime, all even at 1. Between the Gators and the Volunteers, goal by Flynn for Tennessee and a goal by Sharp for Florida.
It's going to be extremely important for both teams to deny any type of opportunities. You want to try to do your best to keep it as scoreless as possible if you're Tennessee, not allowing Florida any opportunities to get forward. And Florida the same. I mean, to be able to go in the locker room at 1-1 is better than you know, Florida being down or Tennessee being down.
Pass went just long from Marcano to Anna Bialzak, the redshirt freshman from Lutherville, Maryland. There's Danielle Marcano in her freshman season in Tennessee.
Florida's had a lot of success tonight by really stretching the field wide. You can see the movement across the back line. They love to build from the back, and they look to play the ball into the midfielder checking back or forward checking back and then redirect, play the ball out wide. And you can see their midfielders making that run, making the Tennessee defenders have to decide, do I step with that midfielder pressing high or do I stay with the forward that's running across in front of me? That dynamic movement up top is causing Tennessee some problems. The players on the field aren't sure who they're supposed to pick up. And therefore, you see Tennessee sitting in, allowing Florida more opportunity and more open area.
Sharp with a shot, Eckel with a save, as Eckel has continued to be very busy for Tennessee, as that's now her 5th save of the match. 10-5, Gators have outshot the Volunteers at this point. Also taking a look at the shots on goals, Florida's had 6 while Tennessee has only had 3 to this point. Of course, 1 went in.
Well, and you have to keep in mind, Roger, this Florida team against Kentucky had 27 shots on goal. So I don't think we're done seeing from either Jordan up top or Faulkner or even Westfall up top, Sharp. You know, they've got a lot of movement up top.
And Jordan, one of the key reasons why the Gators have put up a lot of shots. She has most shots on goal and most shots overall in the nation this year, just adding to a laundry list of great accolades for her this season.
And Tennessee making a substitution right now, pulling out Megan Flynn and adding in Callie Hudson. And I think that's a smart play by the Tennessee coaching staff, trying to keep fresh legs. I mean, Florida has really maintained possession the last couple of minutes, and you can't afford to give up a goal with 4.5 minutes to go in the first half.
Back to the Florida back line with Faulkner. Has done a really nice job in this first half. Just every time she gets close to the ball, she clearly gets possession for the Gators.
Well, and what we just saw right there, Faulkner steps up. She's a defender. Callie Hudson on the outside midfielder is stepping to pressure a defender. Tennessee can't have that happen. They have to have more defensive pressure come from their forwards up top, because if Callie Hudson as a midfielder steps, that means that her player's wide open. And if a Tennessee defender steps up to mark the midfielder, that leaves space for Savannah Jordan to attack into.
Tennessee's midfield with Baldwin, getting it all the way back to Eckel. Under 4 minutes now to go in this first half. All even at 1. Florida, of course, played to a draw in their last timeouts. Gators against Kentucky last Friday in Gainesville, 1-1 was the final score. Lone goal came from Jordan. Dougherty Howard, who had a long shot on goal just a moment ago. Worked this around to Florida's back line first. Pelaya, and just past Slattery.
And again, you can see Carlin Baldwin stepping to the ball, leaving
There's
the open.
There's a shot in for the Gators. The Florida Gators take a 2-1 lead over Tennessee with 3:21 left to go in the first half.
And that goal was a pure result of Tennessee losing their marks, not sure who they should step to and who their marks should be. Florida doing a great job just to spread the space between the Tennessee defenders, sliding that ball right through. Carlin Baldwin wasn't sure if she should step to that player. Tennessee was just stunned on their back line, and you can see the frustration right there from Julie Eckel. She's like, what in the world's going on? Why aren't you picking up your marks? And if you remember, as Florida's pressing those defenders up, it's going to take a forward to mark them. You can't have your midfielders step, because every time somebody steps out of their position, that leaves an open player.
So now the Gators have a 2-1 lead. The goal was by Slattery, her third of the season. Tennessee being aggressive after the Florida goal once again, as that goes just out of play. Now we'll get set up for a corner kick here for Tennessee. Just under 3 minutes to go in this first half, and Tennessee trailing now 2-1. Marquise, keeper for the Gators. Tennessee with its third corner kick of the match. And headed away by Florida. Painful header there, and that looks to be Slattery, who just scored the goal a moment ago for Florida.
Slattery is an extremely tough player for Florida, somebody who's really been instrumental tonight and throughout the season in helping to maintain possession in the middle of the field. She's a tough player, and it's good to see her on her feet. You see the hug right there from Savannah Jordan. She's like, dude, we're not done. We got a lot more to do against this Tennessee team.
2 goals for the Gators here in the first half, and we mentioned the stat earlier. Tennessee had only allowed 2 goals in the first half all season through 12 matches. Now 2 in this first half for the Gators.
I think Tennessee's at a crossroads in terms of where they are in the conference. We mentioned that they're 6th right now, just ahead of Florida, number 7. Both teams are 5 games in. This is their 6th match, so it's really important the result of this game really helps separate either team and leapfrog them into the top 6 or top 5.
Pass went just long. Monte Agudo almost came up with it for the Gators. 2 minutes left to go before halftime. Tennessee trailing by a goal. How much pressure is that on Tennessee to try and score a goal in these last 2 minutes?
I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure. Anytime that the more time that goes in between goals scored, the more pressure it is on a team. And if Tennessee can answer back quickly going in the half, I think it just kind of rattles Florida. But right now, Florida's in a good sequence. They're getting numbers into the attack, and they're really stretching Tennessee. They're testing them. And honestly, you can just see that Tennessee really doesn't have the excitement that they had. They don't have the energy, and so that would be the first thing that I would address if I were Coach Pensacola in the locker room is like, hey, look, you can't afford to give up, especially against a quality team like Florida. They're ranked number 12 in the country for a reason. So you can't afford to have any timeouts or give up or decide that you're tired. You got to finish all the way to the end of the whistle.
And it seemed like the opposite of that when the match started. It really was Tennessee coming out more aggressive early.
Yeah, and I think that's just, partially due to, just how young this team is. It's just learning how to pace themselves and just continuing to develop that mental toughness. And they can't afford to pace themselves, especially in this conference, especially 5 games in. You've got to play all out every second that you're in there.
Tennessee trying to set something up. Marcano on her own for just a while before met by Florida defenders. Now this will get back to midfield. Culhane there for Tennessee. Pass went long for Morrow.
And Paleo is pressing high, so Tennessee's got to really watch that. Paleo's been instrumental in the last few minutes of getting the ball into her feet and playing those quick 1-2 passes out, allowing Florida to switch the point of attack.
Morrow close to the penalty box. Tatum Wagner for Tennessee. And the shot on goal and diving save, but that went just to the left of Marquise. So at halftime, 2-1, Florida leading Tennessee.
I think that was a strong finish by Tennessee, especially in the last couple of seconds for Marcano to get that shot off. There's got to be some adjustments tactically made by Tennessee if they want to stay in this.
One last look as Florida, after trailing 1-0, came back with 2 strong goals. And again, the Gators lead at halftime by a 2-1 score as you watch SEC Soccer on the SEC Network. Halftime, 2-1. Florida leads Tennessee. A rainy night here in Knoxville. Roger Hoover joined by Tori Beeler-Watson here in the booth. And a really entertaining first half. Tennessee was aggressive early, but the Gators came back strong. 2 goals in the final 15 minutes of the half.
Florida's done a tremendous job in this game. Roger just possessing the ball in the middle of the field and being pretty physical too, especially given that the field and the conditions are wet. They've made sure to put their bodies in a position where they can win the ball at all times.
Well, Tennessee and Florida, it's always special no matter the sport, but especially in soccer, we've seen some really great matches. And even in your career, Tori, we had some very memorable moments between the Vols and the Gators.
Yep, had the opportunity to play against Abby Wambach, and for me, that was a highlight of my career, being able to play against a person of that level. But you know, it's all good fun, and that's what college is about, is making memories, and this is for sure one of my favorites.
Well, let's take a look back as Tori Beeler-Watson faced off against Abby Wambach and the Gators in the late 90s.
Stay with her, Tori! Stay with her!
She just grabbed my shirt.
That was it?
Yeah.
Was there any sort of like rivalry built up to the game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, the Tennessee-Florida rivalry.
Pushed me, I was like, oh gosh. And I was like, when I was sliding, I was like, I just got pushed really hard. I was like, I can't look like, you know. So I stood up and I went at her. I was like, oh gosh, she just might blow. And she's just looking at me, and I was looking at her. We were like face to face, and all of a sudden she just cracks a smile, and I was just like, yeah. I was like, I'm not smiling.
We knew you had a career in TV after that. Here's a look at some of the talented players in addition to Abby Wambach that have played in the FIFA Women's World Cup, really all over the place. A lot of different SEC schools represented here.
Yeah, you know, that's just a testament to the quality of players that the SEC generates. You know, you've got a lot of tremendous players, and it's great to see them still playing in the World Cup and further forward.
At halftime at Regal Soccer Stadium, it's Florida that leads Tennessee 2-1, 12th ranked Florida leads Tennessee as we get ready for the start of the second half here at Regal Soccer Stadium. Roger Hoover joined once again by Tori Beeler-Watson as Tennessee and Florida, they had a long rain delay, an hour and a half before this match gets started. Tori, how do you feel like both teams responded to the delay?
You know, I think Tennessee started out with a wonderful, tremendous punch, and then second half we saw them kind of go in a lull, and Florida maintained possession, found a good rhythm, and struck not once, but twice.
Well, some entertaining goals scored in the first half as we take a look back at the highlights from the first 45 minutes of this match. First of all, rain. We had a lot of weather. These teams had to wait for the longest time.
Tennessee coming out, getting a warm-up, just trying to stay focused and pressing hard right now. Terrific pass right there. Great finish by Flynn, assist by Gunnar. And then you have a response here by Florida. They come up, terrific pass across, and Sharp able to connect on the end, and that's the equalizer, 1-1.
So that tied it at 1, but then about 10 minutes later in the 41st minute, it was Liz Slattery that came up big.
And Slattery did a terrific job just stepping forward into that space, allowing her teammate to pass the ball and splitting the Tennessee defense. And when we take a look at shots, Florida's leading with 11 shots over Tennessee's 6, corner kicks 3-2, fouls Tennessee with 4, Florida 3, shots on goal 7-3. It's going to be an interesting matchup as we go into the second half.
So again, Tennessee only 1 goal on 6 shots. How can Tennessee get more shots in the second period?
I think they're going to have to tighten up defensively. They're going to have to make sure that they're marking their players in the middle of the field. Florida's pressing those numbers forward, and as they're doing so, it's creating all sorts of complications for Tennessee. They're not knowing who they should mark. You've got midfielders stepping up to mark defenders that Florida's pressing forward, and I think the communication is going to have to be better all over on the field. And when Tennessee moves forward defensively or even as offensively, they have to move as a unit. They cannot afford to have gaps on the field.
So we're getting set to go for the final 45 minutes of this match. Again, the Gators with a 2-1 lead over Tennessee. Marquise allowing only 1 goal, but again, Florida scoring 2 goals in the last 15 minutes to take the lead as we are underway in this second half. Still the rain falling in, probably the lightest it's been since we first had storms here in Knoxville.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have a lot of teams. Both these teams are going to have to come out and play with another level of intensity, much more than we saw first half. And if I'm Florida and I'm Coach Becky Burley, I've told my team, listen, you're at a 2-0 or 2-1 right now. Let's finish it off. Let's extend this lead. Let's get another early goal, take the wind out of Tennessee.
Two teams in the first 10 minutes or so really were slow going, it seemed like, after the rain delay. But already here in this first 40 seconds of the second half, we're seeing a lot more movement.
Well, and I think for Tennessee, they understand that there's a lot on the line for them. I mean, if they're able to walk away with a win against a ranked opponent, not just the fact that Florida is who they are, they're in the SEC, but Roger, they're ranked number 12 in the country. So when we look big picture and we talk bigger picture postseason play, this is a quality win for them that could help get them into the NCAA tournament, and that's something that this Tennessee team hasn't seen since 2012.
That was the first year for Brian Pinsky in Knoxville, as he is in his 4th season at the helm of this Tennessee program. Now Tennessee trying to set something up. Again, we have switch sides here at the half, and that's just out of play. Tennessee's Riley O'Keefe.
Right now, Tennessee has all their numbers pushing forward. They've left 2 defenders in the back, which can be a little bit risky, especially with the talent that you have in Savannah Jordan up top. But I think Tennessee's going to have to take these type of risks, especially if they want to try to generate a little bit more production up top.
So a tackle there. Emily Morrow gets back up on her feet for Tennessee. In the shots, Florida with 11, Tennessee with only 6. 2 saves by the Florida keeper, Marquise. Julie Eckel, very busy in the first half, 5 saves, but 2 goals allowed.
And we can see the pressure that Amy Neal's applying, something we saw Tennessee do really well in the first couple of minutes of the first half, and then the last 20 minutes of the second half, they didn't really pressure as a unit, and that's where their opportunities came from, is being able to apply that high pressure.
And 2 players get tangled up. First for Florida Gators, Lauren Smith right on Baldwin of Tennessee.
And Carlin Baldwin doing a terrific job of stepping in front of that Florida player, making herself big as a defender. Florida just applying to the extra pressure, losing her balance, and falling into the Tennessee player.
Yeah, 2 strong hits there. Both players, of course, hitting the field. But there was a second hit almost by Smith right on the head of Baldwin. Hopefully she's all right. She does stay in the match as Ferguson has a long kick into the box. Tennessee trying to head something past Florida. Here's a shot going just wide for the Volunteers.
And it was tremendous effort by O'Keefe just to try to create something for Tennessee and redirect that shot onto frame. You can see the Tennessee player scrambling, O'Keefe just trying to get a foot on it. She knows she's got numbers around her, people crashing the goal. Ball just goes to the right.
Yeah, you mentioned people around her. I mean, there is just not much room at all for her to even get a kick like that out.
There's a lot of congestion, and that's where it makes it tough for goalkeepers, is being able to track the ball and good communication. That's where you want to make sure your defender's in the right positions.
Now Florida getting on the attack, something we have not seen much of in the first 4 minutes of the second period. Slattery scored earlier. Maggie Dougherty-Howard makes so many things happen for the Gators in midfield. Tennessee with good defense from McClung.
Well, and Tennessee's done a really good job tonight of containing Savannah Jordan. We've talked about how talented she is and how important it is to always have a hand on her. And Tennessee's done a good job. What I think Florida's going to try to do is to play into her feet and allow her to distribute to her teammates and really allow her teammates the opportunity to shine. And Roger, they have the talent to do so.
Back to center. Here's Jordan, and that gets just to Tennessee's back line of defense, as Jordan, even in a spot like that, can be so dangerous. Now the Gators setting something up with Pelayo. Just past Sharp. There's Katie Cousins dispossessing for Tennessee. Pressure on Amy Neal. Gets it across. And just out of play, and that it's off the foot of Cooper. It's good to see her come back in the match as she had to leave earlier with injury.
And I think this is a tough match for her, especially given her condition, because the weather has dropped probably about 10 degrees since the start of the matchup. It is damp fields, damp conditions, so it's harder for your muscles to stay warm, especially in this stop-and-go type of scenario that's been exchanged between Tennessee and Florida.
Here comes Cousins. That went just away from her. Tennessee trying to get an attack going, trailing by a goal as we're just over the first 5 minutes here in the second period.
And that's a heads-up look by Susan Ferguson to try to find the far player on the other side of the field, trying to redirect the point of attack for Tennessee.
Talked all match long about the fine play from Florida's Faulkner, Claire Faulkner.
Great.
And we're going to see a whistle blown here.
That's a tremendous battle between Pelayo and Kupritz. When we talk about these 1v1 battles all over the field, Pelayo and Kupritz is one you're going to see. You're going to see Baldwin in the middle. You know, on the back line, Santorio and Savannah Jordan. And you've got to talk about Westall's tremendous service into the box. This is a dangerous opportunity for Tennessee and a tremendous one for Florida.
Here's a kick by Westfall. To the center of the penalty box, just past Jordan. You could tell Florida was trying to get her set up with an easy heading situation, but on a checkerboard jerseys in the penalty box. Good save there by Eckel as that shot came in from Pelayo.
And Pelayo did a tremendous job keeping her head down, sending a driven ball into Julie Eckel.
And that's going to be a foul going against Tennessee's Amy Neal.
I think Tennessee has to be careful in these situations. They can't allow Florida the opportunity to have these set pieces. Westfall's service is extremely dangerous, and you know, you've got the tremendous talent of Florida's front runners coming right at you.
Almost a false start by Westfall. Now she's set to go. Eckel comes off the line and I think deflected a piece of it with her hand. Now the Gators trying to get it back. And they will. Slattery got tangled up with Baldwin. And finally out of play.
It's important for both teams, given the surface and the conditions of the field, to play for every single ball, and not just the first balls, but the second and third. It's going to skip around, and the team that is most committed to winning those second and third balls is going to have control of this game tonight.
Katie Cousins trying to clear it out for Tennessee. A lot of pressure now as Florida's still in a good opportunity to try and build on a 2-1 lead. There's Cousins again for Tennessee. And she lost it just there, going back to Smith. Now here come the Gators. Trying to find Jordan. Jordan had that just kicked away. Now the Gators on the attack again. Pelayo gains some separation. Gains separation again. Gets a shot with the left foot. And that is just deflected by Tennessee. Defenders really helping out Eckel there. Still possibly a chance for the Gators. Tennessee cannot quite clear it out. Pelayo goes back again. And a Rochelle Smith, who has a lot of speed on the outside. Susan Ferguson right on her, and Ferguson will take it away.
Tennessee's got to be a bit more crisp on their clearances. They're allowing Florida too many opportunities to redirect the point of attack and just play those skipping balls in front of Julie Eckel. One thing we have to talk about, Roger, is Jordan. She is a tough player, and she is doing a tremendous job right now drawing 2 Tennessee defenders on her at all times, allowing one of her other players to be open. So Florida's going to look to play in her feet, allow 2 players to come around her, which is going to open up one of her teammates. It might be Sharp, it might be Pelayo, but I can guarantee you that Florida is going to try to generate production off of the balls that Jordan's able to distribute. You can play in her feet. And you see her right there. Play to my feet, play to my feet. She's the type of player that can take 2 or 3 players on her back and just sit there and distribute, fish out balls.
Only 2 shots by her tonight. And that, again, is surprising considering the fact she leads the nation and the SEC in shots and also shots on goal.
But she's one of those players that I don't think is a selfish player at all. You know, while she would love to score more goals, it's for what's best for the team.
Amy Neal, tough defense on her by Faulkner as that's just out of play. Tennessee trying to attack, trying to even things up. Getting near into the first 10 minutes of the second half. Still the Gators with a 2-1 lead. Tennessee now setting up a corner with Morrow. Got a yellow card coming up.
Given that there wasn't any interactions with other players, no physical, I can only assume that it probably has something to do with, you know, language that's spoken on the field.
This is back to the center. O'Keefe with the header, but the save by Marquise.
Baldwin nearly in a spot to be able to redirect that in the back of the goal. Marquise just coming out aggressively. Terrific service. O'Keefe with the header. Baldwin just probably about a half a step too late in getting in front of Marquise. Terrific save by Marquise.
Yellow card was on Kristen Westfall, the Florida Gators. That's the first yellow card that's been called on her this season. Florida trying to find Jordan again. Good header by Ferguson to clear it away. A lot of times tonight it has been the matchup right in the center of the box. Ferguson on Jordan.
Tremendous pressure there by Pelayo. Creating an opportunity for Florida right now.
Slattery had that just kicked away from her by Morrow. Back to midfield. Katie Cousins finds Kupritz. Good aggressive kick. Look at the speed coming in from Amy Neal on the right side. It's tangled up with Faulkner as that'll roll out of play.
That was a good series by Tennessee, something that we did not see much of in the first half. Tennessee did a good job of possess it, strung around 2 or 3, 4 passes. Katie Cousins doing a good job to play into Kupritz. Amy Neal making that breaking run on the backside of the Florida defense.
Tennessee making a pair of substitutions as Mackenzie Gooner will check back into the match. Also, Anna Bialzak back in for Tennessee.
And Annie Bialzak is a player that Florida's going to have to keep a handle on because she's extremely crafty. And I think Tennessee making these substitutions 10 minutes into the half is going to be key.
Ferguson knocks it away. Back on the Tennessee attacking end. There's the speed of Rochelle Smith.
And you notice Rochelle Smith made that breaking run up top, causing Tennessee's forward to come and defend. But what you don't see is Florida's defenders aren't making that run back, and as so, Florida's forwards are staying on the backfield. So if Tennessee does win the ball, they have nobody to play it to up top.
Tennessee's getting set for a throw-in with Susan Ferguson. Now in her senior season, native of Arlington, Virginia. And that's knocked right back out of play, but this will go the other way. Back to the Florida Gators. Throw in by Smith. Good move by Maggie Dougherty-Howard. Ferguson knocking it right back away for Tennessee.
And Maggie just making a just wonderful breaking, cutting turns. She's so quick over her feet, technically sound player.
Now here's Jordan. Back to Rochelle Smith. And Ferguson has been really on top of everything that Florida has tried to do in the last 5 minutes.
And Tennessee's defense has been under a tremendous amount of pressure tonight. They've allowed 2 goals, something that they haven't done in quite a while. And part of it is just a result of low clearances, and we saw that by Susan Ferguson. They're going to have to do a better job of getting the ball up and past the Florida players. And the intent of playing it back like that, when Florida's passing the ball back and forth by their defenders, it's causing Tennessee's forwards to draw out and pressure them, which is opening up the field space in between. It's creating more gaps between Tennessee's defenders, their midfielders, and their front line, creating more pockets for Florida to be able to play into.
Florida trying to find another opportunity. Strong defense again by Tennessee. Long pass just by Neal to Faulkner.
And Tennessee's got to capitalize on those quick counterattacks. They've got to move more of a unit. You can almost see a breaking line between Tennessee's back line, midfield, and their forward. There's a huge gap between the middle of the field and their forwards. When they win the ball, they have to move, and they have to move quickly. It has to happen 1-2 touches. They can't afford to take a break. You know, Roger, I almost have to ask myself the question, you know, Tennessee has 5 ties on the season. So at what point do you get in that mentality of, okay, here we are, 30 minutes to go. It's 2-1. We can tie it up. We may still play 20 more minutes. You know, so are they pacing themselves? And I think that's a question that they have to ask themselves, and they have to learn to lay it on the line at every moment. And they have to play with a sense of urgency.
Brian Pinsky not too happy with the officials right now. This has been an intense match. Gators getting 2 goals in the last 15 minutes of the first period to take a 2-1 lead. We haven't seen any goals scored in this second period. Gators still in front by 1. Katie Cousins, good burst of speed for Tennessee. Finds Mackenzie Gooner. Good defense by the Gators on Neal, and that will stay with Tennessee. Tennessee making more substitutions. The Volunteers bringing back in Megan Flynn, who scored in the first half. Also bringing in Megan Massey on an impressive shot on goal in the first period as well.
And every time Tennessee makes these type of substitutions on the front line, it provides Tennessee with the opportunity to have different looks. And sometimes it's tough for teams to make those type of adjustments. You know, you get comfortable with defending against a particular player.
Big collision there between Ferguson and Smith. And then I'll go back to the Gators. Marquise, who has not been that active in the second period, getting set for a free kick.
Coach Becky Worley shared with us that Florida really likes to build out of the back, and it's not often that you're going to see them punt or really play the ball too forward. They like to try to play to their defenders' feet. So it's interesting to see them play this one all the way up.
Close to offsides there, but the Gators keeping it alive, and then Culhane trying to clear it any way that Tennessee can. But the Gators, a good opportunity, and that went just past, I think, where the intended target was, Savannah Jordan.
That was a risky clearance by Tennessee and Emily Morrow. Fortunately for her, she was able to get her foot all the way on it and redirect it. But, you know, clearing the ball in the direction that you're facing could be risky. That's often how you can get an own goal, especially given the conditions of the field and that the ball's slick. You never know where it's really going to end up.
That's just out of play. So look at Florida leading Tennessee 2-1. One of the things we talked about, a chance for the Gators to get closer back to Tennessee in the standings, and really thinking big picture about what these teams have coming up. Not a must-win for Tennessee, but a big opportunity.
Yeah, and both teams have just talked about, you know, trying to put together a complete game and using each game as a stepping stone to prepare them for the next game. And Florida's done a tremendous job tonight in pressuring the ball collectively as a unit and creating wonderful offensive looks. They've maintained some good possession. Are there things that they could do to improve? But overall, they've done a tremendous job. Tennessee, on the other hand, they've tried to be pretty tight defensively. Julie Eccles played outstanding. They've done a good job in shutting down Savannah Jordan. However, the offensive production has not been there in the way that they would probably like.
And Tennessee and Florida both starting to really run out of matches in the SEC schedule after this. Tennessee at Alabama, at Missouri, home for 2 more against Ole Miss and Kentucky, then at South Carolina. And before you know it, everyone in the SEC will be in Orange Beach, Alabama before the tournament.
Well, what's interesting about this conference, Roger, is about this time, when you get to about the 5-6 game mark, all sorts of crazy things start happening. We saw South Carolina take down Auburn last night. Auburn's ranked 8th in the country. Georgia beat Auburn a couple of weeks ago, and then Tennessee turned around and beat Georgia. So there's all sorts of opportunities to get points, and that's what it comes down to, is who's going to walk away tonight with 3 points? Or are the teams going to come up in a draw?
Back at midfield, and just so many talented teams in the SEC, as a lot of scores have already gone final tonight from the SEC. But taking a look at different SEC teams in the RPI, here's how it measures up. Of course, Auburn there at number 5, Tennessee at the bottom of the list at 45, despite the Volunteers being in the middle of the pack of the standings.
Well, and that's why for Tennessee this game is so important. They're ranked 12th in the country. So to beat a quality opponent, not to mention a conference opponent, would be significant for them. It's huge for them, especially if they're interested in any type of postseason play.
Back at midfield, only 25 minutes left. We have not seen a goal in the first 20 minutes of this second period. And the other thing for Tennessee is we just haven't seen that many shots.
I think tactically Tennessee's coaching staff has done a very good job of helping Tennessee to sort out what the problems were first half. I think Tennessee's done a better job defensively, identifying their marks early.
Speaking of shots in the second period, not many for the Gators either. Only 3 shots by Florida, 2 shots by Tennessee in the second half. It's been a midfield game. Now an opportunity here for Tennessee as we'll get ready for a corner opportunity. Tennessee now with 5 corner kicks in this match compared to Florida's 3.
And given that Tennessee had an additional couple of days to prepare against Florida, they've, are hoping that they can capitalize on the end of one of these corner kicks.
Here's Susan Ferguson getting set for Tennessee, but all the action right in the box, right in front of Marquise, the Florida keeper. Just past Massey, Tennessee will keep it with Cousins. And just past Gooner, who lost her footing. And we'll have a foul called. That'll go on Tennessee. Let's take another look.
You can see the ball coming in, just skipping across. Player goes up, and unfortunately, I got to be honest with you, Roger, I'm not quite sure how that didn't go against Florida. I mean, it looked like Florida went up and over the back of Mackenzie Gooner, but clearly they saw something I didn't from up here.
In terms of fouls, Tennessee has had 7 compared to Florida's 4.
A tremendous battle on the other side of the field. Cardano, just complete commitment for Florida, denying Tennessee any opportunity to get inside the 18.
Sarah Tricoli will come back in. She had some impressive looks early in the first half for the Gators. She replaces Brooke Sharp, who scored one of Florida's 2 goals. Sharp scored at the 33-minute mark.
Florida substitution number 15.
Also Tatum Wagner in for Tennessee.
Brooke Sharp.
Well, Tennessee trying to get aggressive down by a goal as we're about midway through this second half in Knoxville. Florida still the 2-1 lead.
I think the coaching staff is just desperate to bring some energy.
There's a shot there by Flynn, saved just by Marquise, as Anna Bialzak of Tennessee was down basically for that entire play. She lost her footing early. We'll try and see and take a look at what happened to her, as now the training staff will be advised to come on the field for Tennessee. Holding that right shoulder, Joe Middick, the Tennessee trainer. Let's speak with her. let's take another look.
You could just see Bialczak over the ball, and the Florida foot just comes in and trips her, and it looks as if she just kind of falls really hard. And Roger, we never like to see players go down on the field, but it is worth mentioning at the moment, you've got Tennessee and Florida both out on the field, and both of them, with 22 minutes to go, are having a team talk. And that's important. And Roger, you know, for Florida, they're like, hey, we're up 2-1. We've got to close out this game. And for Tennessee, it's 2-1 right now. But the energy, the level of energy that they're playing with is just not there. They've got 22 minutes to go to get another goal and hopefully a second goal if they want to walk away with this win. And for Florida, it's just a matter of playing tight defense, staying together, and not allowing Tennessee to get that goal.
All right, the center of that Tennessee huddle was Katie Cousins, only a freshman, but maybe starting to develop into an early leader, as we do have some good news for Tennessee as Bialczak is back on her feet, will make her way back to the sideline. Not sure how much she can factor in for the rest of the match, but certainly wish her the best.
And it's always good to see the players come back to their feet. Standing ovation for the crowd here tonight in support of her. Just tremendous effort by her. But there you see Katie Cousins, #1 recruit in the nation, talking to her teammates, trying to get them to step up. Look, we can do this. It's just going to take us working together, making sure we're communicating.
Well, a very young Tennessee team, a young Florida team as well. But for Tennessee, the #4 recruiting class in the country, really led by Katie Cousins, but a multitude of players there for Tennessee.
And you can see some of the names that we've mentioned tonight: Marcano, Bialczak, O'Keefe, Gooner, Flynn, Wagner. One person we haven't seen much of is Seaman, but, you know, we should note she scored goals this season too. You know, Tennessee's production up top has been spread throughout the whole team, and it makes it challenging for teams to play against and to get into a rhythm defending against Tennessee, because just when you're comfortable, boom, they bring 6 subs at you, and you're trying to learn a player all over again and figure out what their moves are.
And I meant to mention this earlier, Tennessee has used more players than Florida tonight. And the thing that we saw when we had a match earlier in the season against Belmont, and it really hasn't mattered which opponent Tennessee is playing, Brian Pinsky is going to really keep his bench very active. It keeps subbing in a lot of players regardless of the opponent.
You know, I will say tonight, though, we haven't seen them sub in waves quite like he has. You know, in some of the other games, he'll put 5-6 players at a line and sub like a whole front line off. And tonight it's been more of 1 and 2 subs here and there. So it's interesting to me. But, you know, the production for Tennessee has to be better than what it is right now, especially if they want to close out and walk away with a win against Florida tonight.
"21 minutes left in the match, and again, not much offensive activity for Tennessee. Very few shots on the Gators here in the second period. Tennessee and Florida even in terms of shots, just at 3 in the second half. Compare that to Florida with 11 in the first period and then 6 by Tennessee. Good work by the Gators midfield.
Florida's doing a tremendous job of switching the point of attack. They started out on the far left-hand side of the field. We're able to work it all the way on to the right side of the field, and Tennessee trying to pressure, but Florida doing a tremendous job of protecting the ball and maintaining possession.
Back to Westfall, cross midfield, and that's to Jordan off her head, and then she gets knocked down. No whistle blown though. Alligators still time to set something up. Here's Dougherty Howard. Chance for Samantha Chung, and that goes wide to the right.
And Tennessee can't afford to allow Savannah Jordan to have the possession that she is, to receive the ball at her feet or on her shoulder. And there's a great look right there by Chung. She had a terrific shot, just keeping her head down. The ball skips wide, but great shot on goal. And Tennessee's got to tighten up the midfield. You know, when they press up and they're offensive, great go. But then they've got to turn around and recover defensively. Savannah Jordan able to make a little flick. She had 2 Florida players sitting right on top of the 18. That is something that cannot happen for Tennessee, especially against a quality opponent like Florida.
Haven't seen much of Samantha Chung in this match before, but now she enters in her 12th match as a player for the Gators. And A lot of the Gators and Volunteers with famous parents that maybe played some collegiate soccer, but her dad, Mark Chung, he's a past U.S. national team member from 1992 to 1998, and he was also an MLS player for 10 years.
So she clearly has it in her genes.
No doubt about it. Here's Tatum Wagner as Tennessee again tries to set something up, only down by a goal. Kenzie Gooner, long, and that's just to the left, but almost like seeing some shots like that from Gooner.
You know, we mentioned that it doesn't matter how pretty the goal looks, and anytime you can get shots from the outside, it's going to create opportunities in front of the goal, because if all it takes is Marchese to tip it, and if she tips it in the right direction and you've got a player crashing on the backside goal, it could be converted quickly. So good heads-up play by Tennessee, and just making sure that Marquise is on her toes.
18 minutes left to go. No goals scored in the second period between Tennessee and Florida. All the way to Tennessee's back line. Good aggressive play by Florida. And finally back to the keeper, Eckel, who hits it out of play.
You don't get to be number 12 in the country for nothing, and Florida's done a tremendous job tonight in maintaining possession on the field and playing consistent soccer throughout the game. Tennessee's had lulls at moments, and at times right now with the energy and the level of intensity that you're playing, you would think that Florida's up on them 3-4-0, but the goal, it's just a one-goal differential. All it takes is one moment, one breaking moment for them to be back in this game.
We mentioned Florida, not number 12 in the country, ranks 12th in the country for a lot of reasons. Also picked to win the SEC, and I think the SEC portion of their schedule has not gone the way they would like to this point.
But they're tremendous. And the last time they had a slow start to the conference, they ended up doing very well and advancing far into the NCAA tournament. So, you know, I don't think you can ever count Florida out, especially when it comes to postseason play. I mean, their real focus, sure, they want to win the conference, absolutely, without a doubt. But where they're really focused is on winning that NCAA championship.
Mentioned Florida 2-1 losses to Texas A&M and Auburn, and then the last time out for the Gators, they had a 1-1 tie with Kentucky. That was last Friday night in Gainesville.
And Texas A&M, that loss was a heartbreaker for them. And speaking with Coach Becky Burley, she said that's probably, you know, our team's worst performing game. You know, we came back and we scored some goals, but we weren't able to capitalize, weren't able to finish. And I think that's where they kind of feel a little cheated, that that's a game that they should have won.
Here's O'Keefe. Can she center it up? She can, but back to Florida's back line of defense. Now Tennessee will try and set something up again. Santorio back to the box, but once again, a blue jersey around the ball. That's just past Cousins and a whistle blown. Coley there for Florida. We'll take another look.
You can see the physical battle, the altercation right there, and it's easy to understand why Megan Flynn got called for that. Unfortunately, in soccer, you're not allowed to two-hand hold. But, you know, good, tremendous effort, and I think that's just a testament to the willpower that Tennessee has right now in this game.
Now Tennessee all the way back to Eckel. 15 minutes to go. Still the Gators in front 2-1. So a win tonight for Florida, the 9th of the season for the Gators, if they can hold on here in Knoxville. But also a very important 3rd win of the year in SEC play. We talk about it with every coach that we come in contact with. You always want to get points.
That is extremely important, especially tonight as these teams continue to move forward in conference play, and then they turn around and they have stiff matches on Sunday. And the Sunday games are always tough because you've laid it out on the line on a Friday night, you've got travel in between, and you turn around and play another opponent.
In for number 2.
Florida will be playing LSU on Sunday. They just won tonight 2-1 over Missouri, but then after that, going to Starkville, home against South Carolina, and then they finish against Arkansas and then at Georgia to round out the regular season. This goes long and back to the Florida keeper, Marquise. How about for Marquise? Very young player, I believe she's only 17 years old, and she graduated a year early from high school, so she would have an opportunity to get to play college soccer this early, but she's gaining some really valuable minutes in between the pipes for the Gators.
She's done a tremendous job for Florida, and it's no doubt because her biggest fan is Tysinger. Tysinger is one of Florida's other goalkeepers, and she's really been instrumental in helping her to feel more part of the team and really be her biggest fan.
And that was a point of emphasis made by head coach Becky Burley at a press conference after the Gators beat Jacksonville University 4-0. She had a picture of Tysinger and Marquise having a hug, and it just kind of symbolized how everyone supports everyone on that Florida team.
And I don't care how talented you are as a team, if you don't have that inter-team chemistry, it's going to show out on the field, and it's going to show through your play. And anytime you bring as many fresh faces as Florida has to their team, you've got to work on that chemistry, and how's it going to affect your team, and what's that going to translate out onto the field.
It's a very young Florida team, 17 freshmen in. We talked about this before the match. Tennessee and Florida, the next few matches next year in Gainesville, and then 2 years from now back in Knoxville, really the same players are going to be on this field.
Yeah, both teams have had a tremendous freshman class. I think Tennessee brought in 10 this year, and then, of course, Florida had 17. So I think the rivalry between these two programs is going to definitely continue on.
Well, young Florida Gators get a chance to learn from some returning starters, as 6 starters came back from last year's team that made it to the Elite Eight. Again, lost on the West Coast to Stanford last season. A great run for the Gators.
And Florida's doing an excellent job at the moment of possessing the ball, building it out of the back, finding Faulkner, who then found Sharp in the center. And you can just see the movement off the ball that Florida's creating. Tennessee's leaving a lot of open space on the far side of the field for them to attack into, and this is where it's going to create dangerous situations.
Dangerous right here, Savannah Jordan, and she gets it just over the post, as that nearly made it a 3-1 score. Good pressure on Jordan, though, the entire time by Tennessee.
And the commitment is to shut down Savannah Jordan, but in doing so, they're leaving all sorts of players to be able to come through and fire off shots.
Gabby Santorio was right on her for Tennessee. And again, very close to making it a 2-goal match. And Florida has really played aggressively. That third goal is extremely important to the Gators.
Well, I almost feel like at this moment in the game, there's 11 minutes to go. There's a 1-goal differential between these two teams. But yet I feel like Tennessee's kind of pacing themselves. And is it a mentality? Because they have played 5 games into double overtime that's resulted in ties. So in their mind, are they used to thinking, oh, really, we've got 30 more minutes of play left? The reality is, no, they don't. They have 10.5 minutes to try to get an equalizer.
And with young teams, it's always, of course, very important to keep scoring and score in the second half of games. And so far this year, the Gators have allowed 5 second-half goals, while Tennessee has scored 14 second-half goals in the year. Now, 6 of those came in a blowout win against Belmont a few weeks ago. As we'll see Amy Neal re-enter this match for Tennessee. Places Megan Massey.
And while Tennessee has made several substitutions, it seems as though they're not making them quite as often as they were earlier in the season. And it kind of makes me wonder at this point, is that affecting the pace of the game at the moment? Are players tiring quicker than they normally do because they're not getting that rotation? We haven't seen much of Anna McClung. She started. She's typically a player that comes off the bench and really impacts Tennessee's production up front.
Clung with 4 goals in the year for Tennessee, and also a longer night than normal. Of course, we had an hour-and-a-half delay just over that in terms of lightning and some really inclement weather here in Knoxville. Do you think that's played a factor into it as well?
I think there's a combination of things. Anytime you have an hour-and-a-half delay, just being able to keep your mental focus where it needs to be can be challenging. This is a dangerous situation for Tennessee. Unfortunately for Katie Cousins, got called for the foul, just a little bit of an additional pressure on the back of Florida. And here we have a situation where 9 minutes to go. Savannah Jordan, as we mentioned, hasn't had many shots. Roger, I can guarantee you that she is hungry for a goal.
Here's Westfall. She does a great job setting these up, and a lot of traffic right there. Tennessee trying to clear it out. Nearly a goal there for the Gators, but Tennessee trying to get it back out of the penalty box. Now Eckel finally will get her hands on the soccer ball. That was dangerous for Tennessee. Eckel will get it away. We'll take another look.
Varying the services. It's a low driving ball, and you can see Florida slides over Middleton just to front Eckel. Unfortunately, Tennessee plays good defense, but here's the story, Roger. It doesn't matter how well Tennessee defends that ball right there. If they don't put a goal in the back of the net, if they don't convert it, they don't equalize her, it doesn't matter. You know, you can say all you want, Tennessee played great defense, but guess what? They still lost. And at this point, Tennessee's going to have to play with a little bit more urgency.
Savannah Jordan was the one who came so close to getting that in. Now we'll see a corner kick situation for Tennessee. A big point of emphasis is playing better in set pieces. Here's a big opportunity.
They have to capitalize on this opportunity for themselves.
A lot of pressure right in front of Marquise, the Florida keeper. Here we go. Cleared away for a moment by the Gators. Now O'Keefe, and that's cleared away as well. Outside the box. And a big aggressive move there by the Gators, but no whistle blown. Play continues. Eckel far off the line for Tennessee. Back to Santorio. Should there have been a foul called there?
I would say that was a little bit more than the run of play. That was definitely a little bit physical there. I'd say that was more of a charge than a little bit of a shoulder. But you can see the urgency Tennessee's playing now. 7 minutes to go. They're pushing Julia Eckel all the way high. But, you know, Roger, for me, Tennessee can't wait, especially as they continue to move through the conference. They cannot wait to the last 10 minutes of the game. They've got to figure out a way to play tough, solid soccer on a consistent level for a full 90 minutes. And whether it's piecing it together half by half, they cannot allow to have these lulls that they have, because it allows great teams like Florida to come in and take the lead away from them.
Tennessee running out of chances tonight. 6.5 minutes to go, still down by a goal. We took a look earlier at the Florida upcoming schedule. Tennessee with some big matches coming up as well. First up, this Sunday, taking on Alabama. Alabama tonight lost to 17th ranked Texas A&M 4-0. So everything else in the conference has gone final as that's out of play.
Well, Texas A&M, without a shadow of a doubt, is a very solid program within the conference. But you do have to talk about Florida, because their presence is felt no matter where they are, who they play against.
Let's take a look at Tennessee's upcoming schedule. After going to Alabama, a trip to Columbia, Missouri, then home for 2 matches against Ole Miss. Senior Day will be against Kentucky on October 25th, then out South Carolina to close out the conference slate. There's a brief stoppage in play. There is a Florida player down. It's Brian Pinsky talks to the officials. This looks like Kristen Westfall. She is such a key part of that Florida attack, as Connie Andrews, the Florida trainer, will actually stay on the sideline. Westfall getting back on her feet. So a tough collision there. Just under 6 minutes to go. Tennessee still down by a goal. So Westfall staying on her feet, going to stay in the rest of this match.
And she's a tough player. She's got a lot of experience, and she's a true leader on this field for Florida. And as we move into the last 6 minutes of play, I anticipate Florida just really be protective of the ball in the middle and do their best to deny Tennessee opportunities to get into their defensive third. You know, Florida's tremendous, and they're going to keep pressing and try to get another goal.
Westfall, a lot of attention has been paid to her, of course, on preseason watch list for the Mac Herman Award, along with her teammate Savannah Jordan and also Tennessee's injured forward Hannah Wilkinson.
Westfall reminds me a lot of one of Florida's former players, Heather Mitz. She's extremely dynamic coming out of the back, and when she comes forward, she really makes things happen.
Well, the officials have given yellow cards to both the Tennessee bench and the Florida bench. As we saw the conversation that Penske had with the official going on just while Westphal was down with injury. And the officials tonight, Griff Sims, Roger Street, and Carlos Pilaga. So yellow cards issued, 5:58 left to go. Tennessee trailing Florida 2-1. Back underway. And this is back to Tennessee. The Gators really thought they would have possession.
And I think this is where that school rivalry is really on display between these two teams. Florida's beating Tennessee. Tennessee's trying to encourage their teammates to keep on, but Florida pressing hard to get another goal. And, you know, you can just see the energy and the tension between the two benches, and both teams getting a yellow card.
Under 5.5 minutes to play, Tennessee running out of time. Volunteers took a 1-0 lead in the first half. Goal was scored by Megan Flynn at the 21-minute mark. Then the Gators at the 33-minute mark getting a goal by Brooke Sharp. And then just less than 10 minutes later, Liz Slattery giving the Gators a 2-1 lead, a potential game-winning goal. Good to see Anna Bialzak return for Tennessee after she had to leave a bit earlier with injury. Here's Mackenzie Gooner trying to set up something from the right side. She gets knocked down, and we will have a foul there.
We talk about this rivalry between these two schools, but you have to talk about the pride of winning and playing hard on your field. And you just see Gooner going all in, and Florida's players just standing tall against her, creating a foul. So now we find Tennessee in an opportunity that they really have to take their time and make sure that players in the right positions. And Roger, we've seen Tennessee knock the ball around, but they haven't had players on the back post.
Gooner on the ground, and that's cleared away by Florida. Maybe we'd see more air under that kick by Gooner. She has an opportunity here, nearly lost it by Sharp. Now whistle blown. And another opportunity for a set play coming up for the Volunteers.
And again, that's a second call on Gabby Rivera, so it's almost as if the referee's got her number at the moment.
Marquise lost control of it, now out of the box. Here's a shot by Wagner, and it goes high. 2-1, Florida maintains its lead as Wagner just missed.
Terrific shot by Gooner. Marquise coming out, hands on the ball, and this is just a product of the ball being wet and popping out. Wagner on the finish on the other end. Just a little bit of excitement, I think, for her. Ball goes over the top. Tremendous play by Marquise, and great for Wagner on that second shot.
So 2-1, 3:23 left to go. Florida still leads Tennessee. And there was actually a foul in the box that was called there, allowing Florida to get set up with Marquise for a kick as the officials get it sorted out.
Well, and it's important because it's the officials' job to protect the keepers. Anytime that they're coming out like that, they are really in a vulnerable state and a vulnerable position. So that was the right call by the official. It's good to see him protecting the goalkeepers.
Off the head of Gooner. Tennessee running out of time. And that's just knocked out of play. 3 minutes left to go. Again, Florida won the regular season matchup last year, but it was Tennessee that came away with a win in the SEC tournament.
Well, and if Florida is a smart team right now, they're going to take every ounce of time that they can right now. Anytime Tennessee makes a foul, that just takes more time off the clock. Less opportunities for Tennessee to capitalize. So if I'm a Florida player, I'm going to take my time. If I'm Westphal, I'm going to take my time.
She certainly did there, getting ready for that kick. Bialzak, again, good to see her come back in the match after she had to leave with injury. Now Florida, the high side with Middleton. Defense on her by Morrow, now double teamed by Baldwin. And finally went out of play, but that right there just took about 10, 15 seconds off the clock.
Well, and that's what Florida's going to try to do. They're going to try to play it into the corner and protect it, keep it in bounds, and just run out the clock, denying Tennessee any opportunity to penetrate. The storyline for me, Roger, the differences between these two teams tonight. Florida has made a tremendous effort and commitment to win the second and third balls in the middle of the field. And with the field being slick as it is, that's really been the variable, the factor that's made a difference.
Minute 40 left to go. Tennessee will get set for a throw-in. Pressure on Gooner. Now Wagner, right side. Can she get something going? Here's Riley O'Keefe, and there are 2 Gators right there.
And the commitment there by Faulkner just to be first to the ball, denying Tennessee that ability to play that ball in and across, because that's a dangerous ball. If that ball gets played across the 6, that skipping ball.
Well, we have 1 minute left to go. Florida leading by a goal over Tennessee, as that's just knocked out of play. Gators with a win can improve to 9-3-1, but in the SEC, 3-2-1, while Tennessee, this would only be the 2nd loss of the year for the Volunteers. They played 5 ties, but the 1 loss came here at home against Auburn on September 20th. But a potential 2 losses for Tennessee, both to ranked teams. Auburn was number 14 at the time, the Gators 12th ranked tonight. Under 30 seconds, but not much time now for Tennessee to try and set something up. Savannah Jordan, maybe not the typical game for her, but she was able to help her teammates out a lot tonight.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And that's going to do it for this match, as we didn't see a goal in the second period. In the first period, Tennessee had 1 goal, but it was Florida with 2 goals in the final 15 minutes of the first half as they pick up the win tonight, 2-1 over Tennessee. Tori, some final thoughts.
Florida did a tremendous job today and just really taking their chances against Tennessee and really testing that back line, finding those open pockets of space to play into and allowing their players to get forward. Hats off to Florida. Tennessee has to rebound for their game against Alabama on Sunday.
So it's a win for the Gators, 2-1, our final score from Regal Soccer Stadium, as it was a very physical match. This rivalry between Tennessee and Florida always intense, but the Gators win 2-1. For Tori Beeler-Watson, I'm Roger Hoover. Thanks for watching SEC.